And it's indeed a historic judgment in India. Women now will be allowed to pray at the famous Sabarimala Temple. The centuries-old tradition of barring menstruating women has been scrapped. The verdict was announced by a 4-1 judgment. The CJI Deepak Mishra could not be more clear when he said the right guaranteed under Article 25, which ensures freedom of religion for all Indian citizens, has nothing in connection with gender or physiological factors. He added that women are in no way inferior to men. Interestingly, the only dissenting voice was also the only woman in the Constitution bench. Justice Indu Malhotra dissented with the majority. All right, so joining on our discussion now, I'm also joined in by Nishchita Virender, who's currently placed near the Sabarimala Temple, and I am also joined in by our political affairs editor, Kartikeya Sharma, who joins us live from the newsroom. Let's quickly go across to Nishchita, who's reporting live from the Sabarimala Temple. Nishchita, indeed a very, very historic verdict, and let me also quote the CJI, who aptly said that patriarchy in religion cannot be allowed to trump the right to pray.
Absolutely, but the sentiment on ground continues to be divided. Since last night, we have been interacting with people here. And as we know, in a state like Kerala, religious sentiments are extremely strong. People are very, very passionate about their customs and traditions when it comes to religion. So many of them even went as far as to say that even if the Supreme Court favors the entry of women, there is the women themselves won't enter the temple, because that is the kind of obeisance that they pay to the deity Ayyappa Swami. For centuries, women have not entered the temple as a mark of respect, and women themselves don't want to enter the temple. So now that the Supreme Court has delivered this historic verdict, and the LDF government here in Kerala has also welcomed it. Let's not forget that the state government had also done its fair share of flip-flops when it came to its stand on women entering the Sabarimala Temple. So the LDF government has welcomed, the Devasam minister has welcomed this Supreme Court verdict, and has said that in the next few weeks they will be planning on how exactly they can execute this verdict as the temple opens on the 16th of October, and you will shortly in a few weeks from now, you will see pilgrims thronging this temple. So this time will we also see women pilgrims coming into the temple. Also, another factor that we need to keep in mind is that there is a 41-day penance right before the pilgrims come into the temple that is observed, and that was one of the arguments that was put forth by the Devaswam board as well, that said that women are not physiologically built to take up the strong 41-day penance. So will we see the centuries-old tradition changing here? Will the Supreme Court verdict immediately have an impact here at the temple, where people still strongly believe that women should not be allowed inside? Is something that we will know a few weeks from now. As of now, it is very, very calm here because it's not really pilgrimage season.
Right, and Nishchita, some very interesting point made by you over there that, you know, despite a verdict in favor of women, women themselves in Kerala are actually skeptical about still, you know, paying their obeisance in the temple. On that note, let me also cut across to Kartikeya. Kartikeya, this landmark judgment is expected to be a turning point when it comes to India's religious tradition. It's important to discuss how women in India have been banned in various holy places, and despite this verdict coming, you know, in favor of women, you just heard what Nishchita had to say, that, you know, they still are reluctant.
It's very surprising the only woman judge of this bench actually dissented. Indu Malhotra she's a woman judge, and she dissented. You know, let me read out what a woman judge had to say on a judgment which we say has liberated women from this discriminatory social, cultural or religious practice. The law and society are tasked with the task to act as levelers. Now what she says is that it will have a far-reaching implication for other places of worship. She also says balance needs to be struck between religious beliefs on one hand and cherished principles of non-discrimination and equality laid down by Constitution on the other hand. Respondents have made a strong case for Ayyappa devotees being a separate denomination. Notions of rationality cannot be brought into matters of religion. You know, Indu Malhotra is saying that.
Yes.
What constitutes essential religious practice is for the religious community to decide, not quote Indu Malhotra. Religious practices cannot be solely tested on the basis of Article 14. Indu Malhotra. So, you know, well,
So right,
it's
it's very interesting to know that when you have one of the leading justices from the apex court in India actually saying that notions of rationality cannot be invoked in matters of religion, and that the court should, apprehend itself from intervening in religious matters, then that also somewhere, embodies the overall sentiment of the women of India there.
Absolutely, but you see, this is not the place. For example, the Patubasi Satra Temple of Assam, women are not allowed.
Yes.
Lord Kartikeya Temple, Pushkar, Pehova, Haryana, women not allowed. Ranakpur Temple, Mawali Mata Mandir in Chhattisgarh. There are a couple of temples, I've got a list. But it's very interesting. It's not as if women are segregated when it comes to religious places. For example, in Iran, women could not go to soccer stadiums. They still can't go to soccer stadium in Iran. When you voting booths in Saudi Arabia and Vatican, there is a segregation. So women are not allowed that. I'm giving you this example that segregation is a principle which is cultural, social, religious in nature. It can operate in all three levels. The Mount Omin, which is a holy mountain in Japan, women are not allowed. The Mount Athos of Greece, women are not allowed. So just to, tell you that their customary practices, their religious practices, cutting across religions, segregation takes place between gender. But what happened here was discrimination on the basis of gender, one, and women being considered inferior sex, number two, and the concept of brahmacharya, which is celibacy, in context of empowerment.
On that very note of celibacy that you brought in, let me also go across to Nishchita, who can probably draw a background about the temple of Sabarimala, where, the deity, Ayyappa deity, is also a celibate god. So it would be good, Nishchita, if you could elaborate for our viewers, why, they actually worship a celibate god, and why women so far who were of menstruating age were restricted from the temple.
That's right. The deity here, Ayyappa Swami, is believed to be celibate, and that is the reason why this tradition started in the first place. What the Devaswam board as well as several devotees groups claim and have argued that it is the women who initially voluntarily did not want to go to the temple as a mark of respect to the deity who is a celibate. But the counter argument that was put forth by Indra Jaising, who was one of the advocates representing the petitioners, was that this paints the entire womanhood, the entire female community as a seductress, that they cannot even enter the deity's temple. And also, secondly, another argument that was put forth is that they cannot keep the deity, they cannot give such rights to the deity that the deity decides who comes into the temple and who does not. So these were the arguments primarily that revolved around the deity, and of course whether the pilgrims to Sabarimala Temple are a religious denomination altogether, and that was one of the stronger arguments that was put forth by the Travancore Devaswam board. But over a period of time, although initially it might have started because the deity is celibate, and now they would want to revive that argument again. Time and again, you had the Devaswam board say that women are impure during this time. So that became the predominant factor, that became the predominant reason for not allowing women of menstruating age to enter the temple, and that's where the discrimination really started. It stopped being voluntarily and it started being an imposed discrimination on the women who wanted to enter the temple but could not because they were between the age of 10 and 50.
Right. Thank you so much, Nishchita, for bringing us all the latest on this news story. I would also like to thank Karthikeya for joining us here on this discussion. Finally, this historic verdict has indeed proven that the Supreme Court is, of course, the supreme.